I'm Chief of Resource Stewardship at Rocky Mountain National Park, and I'm also the agency representative on the Big Meadows fire. 3 o'clock on Monday afternoon, we got a report of smoke on the west side of the park, and our staff, along with U.S. Forest Service staff, mobilized immediately and converged on the Green Mountain Trailhead late in the afternoon. They immediately sent in a reconnaissance team to understand and size up the fire, just meaning they were trying to understand how big it was and how it was moving. They arrived on scene about 8 o'clock at night, and by 9 p.m. we had determined that it was appropriate to suppress this fire. The forces moved out, and they came up with a plan, a safe plan to interact with the mountain pine beetle-killed forest. As many of you know, most of the west side experienced beetle kill years ago, and right now we're working with fuels that have already started to tip over. They become jack-legged. We've got regrowth underneath, so we've got ladder fuels that are very extreme right now, and that's what made it so volatile yesterday when the winds came up and it moved from 2 acres to 400 just in a matter of hours. Yesterday morning, the teams started to engage. They were flown in by helicopter down in the lower area here near Big Meadows, and they immediately interacting with the fire. There was down dead material along one of the perimeters. We sent staff in there to start to mop that up. At the same time, we had a timber patch at the end of the grass that was very hot, and the complexity of how everything's just jackstrawed through there demanded a Type C faller to be ordered immediately. That was in connection with the order of smoke jumpers to come in to assist with putting this fire out. By midday, around noon, it was still at 2 acres. However, there's a spot discovered about 200 yards. With the warming of the day, the winds coming up, there was a spot about 200 yards away. They immediately moved over with staff to try to extinguish the spot. We had a Type 3 helicopter there. Buckets of water were being dropped on it at the time. The smoke jumpers were also trying to land. The high winds created such a force that the smoke jumpers couldn't jump. So they had to retreat and come in by ground force. During that time of transition, that's when the fires really began to take off. It was shortly thereafter that we ordered a Type 3 team, and with even a shorter period after that, it was clear that a Type 2 was necessary. So a Type 2 team was ordered yesterday. They're en route today. We'll in-brief later this afternoon and transition tomorrow morning. Their ICP is going to be over in the Granby area right now, Grand Lake Granby area. We're settling on a final spot today, but right now I expect it to be Granby along the way. Additional forces, Type 1 team came in yesterday, the Hotshots, and they arrived midday. They're engaging with the smoke jumpers to try to keep the perimeter along Tanahutu Creek contained. Did I say that right, Colin?
Tanahutu.
Tanahutu, sorry. So Tanahutu Creek contained is the lower boundary. As many of you know, there's communities to the south, and our priority this morning is to keep that contained, and that'll be the priority given to the team when they transition for tomorrow. We also have additional air tankers on, or not air tankers, excuse me, helicopters on order. Type 1, Type 2, and additional Type 3 to start to move in more and more water to try to extinguish the fire. It's a full suppression fire, but as with the Fern Lake fire, it's in steep, rugged terrain. And if you think about Rocky Mountain National Park, most of it's in steep, rugged terrain. And with the beetle-killed trees, I don't know if you're familiar with smoke jumper Sheehy from California. He was killed Monday, unfortunately, and our hearts are with his family. He was killed by a beetle-killed tree that toppled over and fell on him. And with that in mind, currently this week, it's been on our mind always, but it's real this week with losing a colleague. Folks are engaging indirectly right now to make sure that we try to get a containment line. As this unfolds, we'll keep you posted with any details. The weather is predicted to be more of the same today. I expect, based upon the forecast, we'll have winds again, but they won't be near as much as yesterday. We had gusts of over 40 miles an hour yesterday predicted. Today it's around 20. There's no precipitation forecasted for the next few days, so I think this thing will continue to move until we can get some more resources on it. And with that, I can open up for any questions unless you want to add something.
Just emphasize about the communities and structures or not.
Thank you, Kyle. So Kyle asked me to just focus on the communities and structures. This is way in the heart of Rocky Mountain National Park, 4.5 mile hike in. There are no structures and no communities immediately at risk. Anybody that was hiking in the area has been evacuated. The areas are closed, and the possibility exists though for this fire to grow as I just described. and there are no natural barriers to contain it at this point without action. So that's why we're engaging the way we are. But the good news is that we don't have to worry about communities at this moment in time.
Any containment estimate?
I do not have a containment estimate for you right now. It's a good question. Any other questions?
I know you said it was lightning started. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it was reported on Monday that it was a lightning strike. And for visitors that were interviewed in the area, they confirmed that they saw a lightning strike in that area. And also through technology, we were able to confirm that there's a lightning strike in the area. So we're very confident this was a naturally caused fire.
But it was increased by, yesterday afternoon, it was increased by a spot fire. Is that true?
Yes, we think sometime during the night, of Monday night to Tuesday morning, some embers got out ahead in the middle of the night that smoldered for hours until the heat of the day came back up. It was undetectable. Helicopters in and out in the morning, resources on the ground. There was no smoke detected at all in the morning. And the 2-acre fire was smoldering and down in heavies, but there was no fire up above until the winds came up. Thank you.
You gave us a number estimate yesterday, 300 to 400 acres. Is that still what we're thinking? Or?
We think it's around 400 acres this morning, staying close to that mark. I'd expect as the day goes on, it's going to increase, and we'll give out a report later on.
Is there any way to help our viewers kind of understand where it is? Because we're standing here and we can't see it.
Sure. So if you're familiar with the west side of the park, and if you go through the gate entrance on that side, you don't go through very far, maybe 10 to 15 minutes is all, and you arrive at Green Mountain Trailhead. And that trailhead takes off towards the Continental Divide, which is to the east. If you were to go up that trailhead, about 4.5 miles, it's in Big Meadows. And Big Meadows is one of the rare places in Rocky Mountain National Park where everything's flat. Okay, it's kind of like Moraine Park in that regard. Not as big as Moraine Park, but it's large and flat. And when you're in that meadow looking around, the Continental Divide surrounds you, kind of in a bowl, and you can't quite see to the east, and the view to the west is blocked by the trees.
So it started in a very flat area, but now is in steep, rugged terrain? I just want to get clear on that.
Started at the interface, we believe, between the meadow and the timber. So mostly grasses were burning when we got in Monday night, but there was timber burning as well along the edges.
Last night the wind was blowing northeast. Did that die down? Did it blow back on itself? What was?
We noticed that with the winds yesterday that the smoke did die down to the north and east from the fire. Interestingly, though, you could still see the smoke persisting, going almost directly east across Longs Peak, dropping down actually into the other end of this valley. The smoke was.
Which direction do you anticipate your winds this afternoon? In other words, which way do you think the fire may grow?
So when the fire expanded yesterday, they were mostly coming from the direction of south and west, moving the fire north and east. And when it did that, it reached the top to a rock scree, and then it began to move laterally in both directions, some to the west and north, and also to the east on the other side. And I expect more lateral movement today. And then when it hits shorter drainages, it has the potential to go back up towards the tundra or towards rock scree.
How far from the Continental Divide?
I don't have an exact number for you, but it's within a couple miles down where it started, and it's very close on the highway.
Are you concerned if it goes over the divide?
We still have a good snowpack at the top and a lot of moisture in the soil. Although the soil's thin, we're feeling cautiously optimistic that that's a significant barrier. And then below that, of course, is a lot of rock screen.
At this point, just the 7 trails closed. But last year at the Fern Lake Fire, the campground shut down, and there was an effect on, I guess, what visitors could do. Are you concerned about it affecting that even more as this fire continues to grow?
I think for the moment, there's a large expanse that was closed through those 7 trails. That network of trails represents a large part of that area already, and we'll just have to wait and see as this evolves. I'd expect this fire, unless the monsoons come in right away, it'll probably be like the Cow Creek fire was in 2010. You guys may recall if you were here. Cow Creek blew up around the end of June, if I remember right, settled back down, and then it kind of smoldered around all summer long because of the monsoons tampering it down. But in September, it arose until the snows came. We might have a similar phenomenon with this. We'll know more as the days progress.
What would it take how far is that, the community to the south, for it to have to affect actual residents? Right?
It's a good question. I don't have the exact mileage, but know that the fire would have to go across a couple different drainages right now. It wouldn't easily do that with the natural tendencies of the wind. With that said, we get a lot of thunderstorms on the west side, so we can't just rest on our, our knowledge that the winds aren't likely to do that. We have to be assertive.
How about Timber Creek Campground?
Right now, it's not at risk and it's not closed.
What's best worst case scenario for this fire going forward?
It's a good question, Nick. I think that the best case scenario is in the next short period of time of operational periods, we can secure that southern flank to ensure that it's not going to move south towards any communities. And then after that, we'll have to determine what the next best logistical tactics are to make sure that we keep it contained along the way. Ultimately, firefighter safety is the best case scenario always.
And the closest community is Grand Lake.